When was the last time someone at work told you something that you genuinely did not want to hear? I'm not talking about feedback that you already thought was coming. Not something softened by the 3 compliments to get you warmed up. But I'm talking about real, uncomfortable truth. If you're struggling to answer that inside, that question, it might not be because everything is going great. That would be naive, right? It might be because your biggest title that you have now attained has gotten in the way. And the bigger your title gets, the fewer truths that you're probably going to hear. And here's some real uncomfortable reality that I think we need to talk about. As you gain more authority, people start exercising more caution around you. This is just the truth. They choose safety over honesty. They choose a level of peace over the truth. They choose applause over challenge. So today's episode, we're going to talk about why that happens, how this can erode leadership effectiveness, and how great leaders like you do it differently to make sure that we're never leading in an echo chamber.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Your home, your business, your peace of mind. At Vector Security, we've been protecting what matters most for over 50 years. And whether you're looking to safeguard your family or secure your company, we deliver smart solutions tailored to your specific needs. From advanced security systems and full HD video surveillance to cutting-edge automation that puts the control at your fingertips, Vector Security keeps you connected and protected anytime, anywhere. Don't settle for ordinary. Choose the team that's trusted by thousands of homeowners and businesses across the region. Call 724-968-4179. That's 724-968-4179 and discover how we can help you stay safe, secure, and in control. Vector Security, protection for life.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. Man, this is a topic that I really hope resonates with some people. The goal of this show is to uncover blind spots. I'm not here to talk down to anybody. I'm not here to assume that everything we talk about on this show you're challenged with. But man, I hope that these episodes, they serve as an audit point for you. And I think this is one that we have to be aware of. We're talking about why titles create distance from the truth. And I would say this, even if you're leading an amazing team with an amazing culture, let this be a point of like, you know what? I'm going to be aware of this. I'm going to make sure that if I think things are going well, I'm going to let this episode validate those things. You know, I spend a lot of my time helping senior leaders become more effective. It's something I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about it because senior leaders, they truly have the ability to drive culture and shape the lives of people. And one thing that I spend a lot of time with these senior leaders is helping them anticipate blind spots. You know, as they start to expand title and influence, more and more blind spots are coming, and they're coming for the very first time ever, meaning we have never been here before. One of the biggest areas that most leaders have never prepared for as they advance is how their big title can start to distance them from truth and certainly from a level of reality of what might really be going on. Most leaders, I would say, and probably even you listening, would say you're approachable, and I hope you would. You know, a lot of leaders, they say things like, hey, my door is always open, or hey, I want honest feedback around here. And I would say if you're saying your door is always open and you want honest feedback, that's very admirable of you, and I like that. I would also say the leaders that I hear say these things, I think they genuinely do mean it. But here's what we know to be a truth. Intention does not cancel out authority. It just doesn't. Authority comes with the climb in leadership title and influence. I have a leadership workshop that I call Leading with Influence. And I teach what I call the 5 authority types that every leader has. And one of the most powerful, I would also say it's the most dangerous, if unmanaged, is reward authority. Reward authority is one of the 5 authority types I talk about, and it's super beneficial, and we absolutely need it. It's powerful, but it can also be a double-edged sword, and it can be so dangerous. Reward authority, it's your ability to grant or withhold things that people deeply care about, that they deeply need. We're talking about things like compensation, opportunities for promotion, visibility, security, approval. These are all things that somebody like you with a reward authority, you have control over these things of almost everybody in your organization. Whether you like it or not, your title, it automatically gives you reward authority. And here's where leaders often misunderstand exactly what that creates. Reward authority comes in a lot of different forms, but one thing that you can take to the bank and guarantee, reward authority frequently brings fake applause. And I know that's hard to hear because you're getting applauded a lot. Gosh, you're the best. You're the best leader ever. Hey, everybody, give me some feedback. Oh, you want some feedback? How about this, boss? You're amazing. Matter of fact, I'm going to go on record as saying, you're the best boss I've ever had. I love your ideas. I love the vision for the company. I love your servant's heart. I love. And people aren't giving you this fake applause because they're manipulative. But because applause, quite frankly, applause feels sometimes a little bit safer than being honest. It just does. Fake applause feels safer than being brutally honest. Why? Because you have reward authority, and I don't want to disrupt that. When a leader with reward authority speaks, agreement becomes low risk for others. You speak, we agree. You say something, we're on board. You launch a new initiative, sounds great. When you have reward authority, agreement, low risk for people, very low risk. Why would I offer any level of disruption and run the risk of getting on their bad side when they control my pay, they control if I get promoted, they control my visibility, they control a lot of different things in my life that I need and I depend on. This is when silence becomes protective. And applause, it becomes part of their strategy, quite frankly, right? And they'll be coy about it. The ones that are really good at it, they're not going to go to the level of brown noser because everybody knows nobody likes the brown noser, right? But the ones that are really good at fake applause, they're going to tiptoe right on that line and not to go over it into this into this brown noser title. Nobody wants that title, right? People clap for ideas, but privately, they're questioning everything that you might be doing. They're going to nod. Oh, yeah, boss, that sounds good. They're nodding at decisions that, quite frankly, they don't even fully support. They praise direction that they would never do on their own. Hey, guys, I got a new path that we're going. Oh, my boss. Wow, genius. I don't know why we've never done it that way before. That makes all the sense in the world. But most of the people, they might be thinking to themselves, I would never do it that way. That seems crazy to me. Why? Because you have reward authority and applause is safe. Why does this happen? And believe me, it happens. Let's not be naive to think we're really that great, right? We might be getting some fake applause. I hope most of it is genuine. And I'm sure if you're listening to this show, that's the case for you. But why does this happen? Because disagreement, it feels very costly to a lot of people. It feels tense. It feels like risk. A raised concern might label them as negative. Who wants that risk, by the way? A tough question, it might affect a future opportunity that they really, really want. An off opinion might change how they're seen by you. Do they really want to take that risk? So instead of truth, a lot of leaders listening, what you might be getting is a lot of affirmation. Instead of challenge, you might be getting some compliance. And fake applause is very dangerous for a culture, for an organization that wants to thrive. Why? Because it reinforces confidence without any accuracy. It speeds up bad decisions. You make a bad decision, everybody's applauding it. We must think we're on the right track, right? Fake applause speeds up bad decisions. It convinces leaders that alignment exists when really it's a house of cards and it's all big facade. Next thing you know, your team begins to edit everything that they're saying. They soften the concern. They delay bad news, if they even provide it at all. And boy, they are clapping. Oh man, they are clapping instead of confronting. This is so dangerous. And they're not doing this because they're dishonest. They're doing this because they're rational. This is a strategic move. This is survival of the fittest kind of feeling, right? Reward authority quietly trains people what is safe and what is expensive. And over time, leaders begin to mistake fake applause for trust, maybe even politeness. Wow, what a nice guy. I always enjoy my one-on-ones with him. It just goes well. I feel like we're really on the same page. I don't know if that's good news. That is exactly how distance from truth is created. And we don't even know it's coming. We don't even see it. And this doesn't happen by arrogance. It doesn't happen by ego, but by unmanaged authority that most of the people listening, you have it. There is a cost of not hearing the truth, leaders. There's a cost. I know it feels nice, and we like that dopamine hit of feeling like we got it all together, right? When leaders stop hearing the truth, there's some things that happen. There's some things that begin to take place that are super dangerous. The first is that decisions start to get worse. We don't get better at decision making. We're worse at it. Because there's kind of an echo chamber here, right? You begin making calls based on partial information, maybe filtered perspectives from those that you're leading, and a level of optimism that's not being challenged. You're optimistic. You should be, and I applaud that as a leader. We need to be visionaries. We need to inspire people to take the hill. But if optimism from the leader is not being challenged, what do we really even have? The next thing, which is very dangerous, is trust begins to erode. Your team knows what the real issues are. Make no mistake about this. If you want answers as a leader, you get out of your office and you go be with the people. They have the answers to the future. I assure you of this. They just know that maybe you're not hearing them. That creates a growth gap between what they experience and what you respond to. And then ultimately, your credibility starts to really take a hit. And it's one that's really tough to recover from. And unless you're a founder, this might be you taking the exit door. Not because you're a bad leader, but because people think you're kind of out of touch. And here's the most dangerous part, if I may. The more senior that you become in influence and in title, the less likely anyone is to ever correct you. It's just the truth. The higher the title, the more fake applause that you can expect. People assume you already know. They assume it's not worth the risk to rock this boat. No way. They assume someone else is going to certainly talk about this. I'm not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole. certainly this is obvious to everybody. This is crazy. Somebody else can fall on that sword. It's not going to be me. So, how does this happen? How do leaders accidentally begin training people not to be honest? Because, if we're really going to break this down, that's really what we're doing. We're literally training people to be dishonest. Man, that's horrible, right? And nobody listening here is doing this on purpose. Most leaders, they do not silence truth in their organizations intentionally. That would be insanity, right? It's done on accident. Nobody sets out for this to happen. Hence why I'm calling it a blind spot. They do it by defending instead of actually listening. They do it by explaining everything instead of asking great questions. They do it by solving all of the problems instead of seeking to understand what's really going on. Someone brings you an issue and you jump straight into problem solving. And that feels helpful to a lot of us because we're solving problems. Why is that a bad thing? Well, to them, it feels like interruption. It feels like micromanagement. Oh, we love that buzzword. Or someone offers feedback and your first response is to clarify intent. What do you mean by that? Wait, what do you mean by, what are you saying? And all of this seems very logical. But what they hear is, you know what, pal? Your perception of this is wrong. So we got to be very, very careful about delivery, about tone, about empathy, about gratitude for feedback, all of these things. Over time, people start learning the system here. They learn which topics are safe with you. They learn how much honesty might cost them because you're teaching them this. They learn when silence is the best move. And everybody is feeling this out and trying to figure out where your boundaries are. And over time, they will know where these are. Is silence a smart move? Is that the best strategy? If I'm honest, what's that going to cost me? Look, there's things you can talk to the boss, but do not bring up this topic. It's a hot button for them. Is that us? Eventually, the leader becomes the last person to know anything that's really going on. Critical things that we need to advance our business and our teams forward. Here's some reality check. And here's the truth that I think a lot of leaders, maybe they don't want to admit. I don't either, quite frankly. I lead a team here too, guys. I'm in the foxhole with you here. If you are not actively working to hear perspectives, you're probably not hearing them at all. Why? Because the leader has to take ownership of this. Folks, this is our responsibility. If we're not working hard to hear perspectives, it's likely you're not going to get any. Truth does not travel uphill to you on its own. It just doesn't. We got to go mine for that gold. We got to go into the hills and dig for those gems. This kind of truth, this kind of feedback, this kind of honesty, it has to be invited up the hill. It has to be protected. It has to be rewarded, even when it doesn't feel good, even when it's blatantly wrong and out of line. At least we're getting something, and let's reward that. The best leaders ask questions that they don't already know the answer to, which for me, I can tell you there's an endless list of questions like that. I know very little about the internal workings of many things in my organization. The best leaders, they pause. They don't react. They thank people for honesty. Even when it's a stinger, man, they thank them. They thank them for the honesty. We need that. Leadership maturity, it's not about being right more often. I always say the best leaders, they don't focus on being right. They focus on what's right. It's about being wrong less often. Can we repackage this? It's not about being right all the time. It's being wrong less. Man, I know we're getting to the same end here, right? But this is a different mindset posture. Let me say it again. Leadership maturity. When we're growing as a leader, it's not about being right more often. It's about being wrong less often. This just hits different. This is a heart posture, quite frankly. So what can we do differently to be best in class, to influence people on a bigger level, to drive our teams forward? I'm going to give you a few practical things that you can take immediate action on when they matter most. First, separate truth from tone. This is big. When someone is brave enough, they've built up this courage to bring you feedback, resist the urge to judge how it was delivered. Maybe they're not in this level of composure, emotional composure that you're at yet. And maybe they're getting all worked up and they're bringing emotion and tone and, a shortness, a sarcasm, a tear. I don't know what it is, but maybe they haven't self-regulated just yet in their journey. Let's not judge how it's delivered. Let's just be glad that it's coming, right? Eat the meat, spit out the bone kind of thing. This matters because truth rarely arrives polished up. Few can communicate truth with tact. Why? Because it usually brings a level of emotion, intimidation, whatever it might be. When leaders require this perfect pitch, this perfect tone, this perfect posture, they accidentally punish honesty. Or you're not going to talk to me that way. Now, look, I get some level of respect and honor. It needs to be in our culture, no doubt about it. But let's rise up a little bit so that we're not just pushing truth and honesty away from the culture that we're building. Listening for the signal. This is important. Instead of focusing on the packaging, let's listen for the signal. What are they saying here? What is the cry of the heart, if you will? Man, when you do this, it makes it safer for people to do it again. Over time, if you can be consistent, this increases both the quality and the frequency of the truth that you will get. And when you have this truth, it changes everything. It changes how you hire, how you fire, how you go to market, how you engage employees, how you retain them, how you promote them. It opens up all of these doors. The next thing that I would tell you is to normalize disagreement. Matter of fact, let's talk about this a lot. Disagreement is okay. And say it loud for your entire organization to hear it. If someone sees this differently, I need to hear it. I want to hear it. But if you say that, mean that. Well, okay, you asked for it. Here's what I think. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Why would you think to do it that way? No, just listen. Let them go. Let them go with their emotion, their unpolished delivery, all of it, right? Then pause long enough for someone to actually respond. Hey, if someone disagrees, I want to know. And give that thing time to breathe. They're probably working up all the courage they can muster up to say what they really think. Why? Because you have a big title. And big titles can be intimidating because you literally control their life, how they provide for their families, all this stuff, right? This is important because most teams have been trained that disagreement, it equals what? Disruption. When you disagree, you're just disrupting. You're disrupting everything. And who wants the label of disruptor? Not me. When you invite disagreement publicly, in front of the team, in front of everybody, what you're doing literally is you're lowering perceived risk. And you're raising the standard for people to think. This is beautiful. People stop guessing what you want. They don't have to, hey, wonder what the boss wants to hear today. Hey, they just asked me a question. If I were them, this is what I would want to hear. No, tell me what you think. They start actually sharing what they're seeing and what their actual thoughts are. And this is where the gold is. The next thing is to reward this. And I mean publicly. And I mean make a big deal about it, rent a marching band, whatever you got to do. Reward candidness and honesty publicly. Now, look, it's got to be in the right spirit and all the things, right? You know, we're not going to be throwing chairs and, you know, cursing at people and whatnot, right? It's got to be done professionally. When someone challenges an idea, they bring a concern, thank them in front of everybody. Hey, I really appreciate you mentioning that. You could grit your teeth saying it if you need to, but let people know this is the posture, this is the environment. Public appreciation, it recalibrates reward authority. It does. It tells the entire room that honesty, it leads to respect and not the consequence. Over time, this shift in culture goes from compliance to contribution. We need a culture of contribution. Lastly, I would tell you, ask great questions. I've talked about this a lot over the years on this show. You know, instead of asking, hey, does anybody have any concerns? Which is one of my least favorite questions, by the way. Repackage this and ask questions like, what are we missing? What are we missing here? Boy, isn't that vulnerable and humble? Hey, what feels off about this strategy I just presented? Hey, if you all could anticipate this going wrong, why do you think it would? Now we're getting somewhere. And these kind of questions, they matter because they communicate expectation. I'm not hoping for feedback. I'm assuming that there's more to uncover. That's why I'm not going to ask, is there any concerns? How many times when you're like, hey, is there any concerns? No, nothing. Nope, nothing. Ask questions that aren't yes and no. They provoke thought and they demand feedback. You're literally setting an expectation. And then finally, do a personal audit. Ask yourself, who consistently tells me the truth? Who can I count on to tell me the truth? Who's gone quiet? Who once told me the truth and now I'm not getting much feedback from them anymore? And what did I do to contribute to that? How did we get off the rails here? The patterns that you create totally determine how honest people are going to be with you. This is so important. I'm going to leave you with this. Leadership, it's not about collecting applause. Believe me when I tell you. If you're getting too much applause, I can tell you this, you're not doing it right. What it is about is creating space for the voice of honesty. That's what we need. The bigger your title gets, and I hope it continues to grow and expand because that means you can impact more people. But as you grow and expand, the more intentional that you're going to need to be about hearing the truth. Because fake applause, man, it feels so good in the moment, especially with all the tension we go through as leaders. But silence, I'm going to tell you, it's the most expensive thing over the long haul. Pick one conversation this week where you listen more than you talk. I promise you, your leadership impact, it will be better because you did that. Until next time, seek the truth from your people and never stop turning that pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.